This is a bit of a golden smoky eye, but with a little bit of a twist. It's a halo eye pairing cool dark purple tones with a pop of warm gold in the middle. This is slightly more of a dramatic look, but still very wearable, so great if you've got an event to go to or if you've got a party to celebrate. So let me know if you enjoy watching it. Thanks. First, I'm going to start off with prepping my base, and for that I'm going to be using the Makeup Forever HD Primer. And because we're going to go quite heavy and dark on the eyes, I wanted to go for a bit more of a glowy, dewy base. And the one I'm using today is the Too Faced Born This Way foundation, and I believe I'm using the shade Natural Beige. This is more of a medium coverage foundation, but the finish is very dewy and fresh looking. So if you want that fresh, glowing, natural skin look, then this is a lovely option. And I'm using a Bobbi Brown foundation brush to make sure I blend that base in nice and even. But if you want a lighter finish, try a damp beauty blender. And for my brows today, I'm going to be using Maybelline's Brow Satin, and I'm starting off with the powdered side. And this is nice if you've got naturally fuller brows and you don't need much work. You can add a little bit of powder and you're pretty much good to go. But I also like to go in with the pencil side afterwards and kind of fill in my brows because they're naturally quite sparse, and I like to kind of mimic the hairs with the pencil. And because the pencil doesn't have a spoolie, I'm using a separate spoolie just to comb through and make sure the product is distributed evenly, and it just gives for much more of a natural looking brow. And then to set my brows in place, I like to add a little bit of brow gel to it, and this one is the Rimmel Brow This Way, and this also adds a little bit of texture to the brows just to make it look even more natural. Then I'm going to prime my eyes, and for that I'm going to use a little bit of concealer. This is just the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, but you can use an eye primer or any other concealer. This is just going to help disguise any discoloration as well as provide a nice kind of base for the eyeshadow to grip to. Then I always like to set the concealer or primer with a translucent powder or an eyeshadow that's close to my skin tone, just to make blending eyeshadow on top much more easier. The first eyeshadow I'm going to use for the eyes is from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it's the shade Birkin, which is a bit of a light neutral tan shade with a peachy pink undertone. And I'm applying that mainly through the crease as my transition shade with a big fluffy brush, and there's no need to be neat with this. Then the next shade I'm going to go in with is also from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it is called Dusty Rose, which is a mid-tone warm mauve, and this is slightly deeper than the first shade, and I'm taking a slightly more tapered brush and applying it through the crease, but making sure to focus mainly on the outer corner so there's a little bit more depth and smokiness concentrated there. And once I've applied that colour, I follow up with the first big fluffy brush that I used to apply Birkin and make sure the two colours are blended in together seamlessly. And you can use the residual product on the brush, there's no need to add any extra product to it. Then the next shade I'm going to go in with is from Makeup Geek, and this is called Last Dance, and it is a deep plummy brown. So even though it's a plum tone, it's still a brown, so still kind of very neutral and grounded. And I'm basically applying that to the outer third of the mobile part of the lid, but staying under the crease. And I'm just packing it on with a flat shader brush until I get to the level of intensity that I want it. And I'm also taking the same colour on the inner third of the eyelid as well, close to the tear ducts. And once I've got the colour down, I take any residual product through the crease, and then I go in with the same brush that I used to apply Dusty Rose and make sure that crease is well blended so that there are no harsh edges. And then I'm pretty much repeating the steps on the other eye, and notice that I've deliberately left the middle of the mobile part of the lid blank, and this is where we're going to be putting our pop of gold. And the most important step of any smoky eye or any eye look is to make sure you blend, 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 and then blend some more. Then to add more depth and smokiness to the look, I'm taking a dark neutral tone satin finish brown, and this one happens to be from the Morphe 35T palette, and I'm applying that to the outer V of the eye, so essentially joining the outer corner where the lash line finishes up into the outer crease, and I'm just packing the colour on with a kind of small tapered brush. It's important that when you're going in with dark colours to use a small brush, otherwise it can get really messy quite quickly. And then once you've got the colour as you want it, you want to make sure to blend it in with the existing shades on the eye so that everything looks more seamless, and that's when you can go in with a slightly more bigger brush. And you pretty much want to blend until there are no harsh lines visible. Now here's the fun part. For that contrasting pop of gold in the center of the eye, I'm going to be using this shade, also from the same palette, and it's a warm mid-tone metallic gold. It's almost like a rose gold but not quite, and I'm just going to slowly start packing that on the center part of the mobile lid, and I'm using the other side of the flat shader brush that I used to apply the plummy brown. Then I'm going to line my lash line with this pencil from a Japanese brand called Excel, which is pretty cool because it's got a pencil on one end, a powder on the other, and a kind of a brush tip liquid liner on the other end, so it's essentially 3 products in one. I'm also using the pencil to tightline my top waterline for that kind of thicker lash line effect, and then I go in with the powdered side and just kind of apply over where I drew the line, and this gives a nice kind of hazy smoky effect. Unfortunately I didn't film that bit, and you just see me going straight with the mascara, and I'm using the Too Faced Better Than Sex waterproof mascara before applying some fake strip lashes. Then time to conceal my under eye bags. I'm using the 2 colours from the Tarte Shape Tape Contour Concealer, and I believe it's medium and light medium honey because they don't have my perfect under eye shade. One's too dark, one's too light. I do like this formulation because a little goes a very long way and the coverage is intense. And here I'm just taking the lighter shade and just bringing it further down beneath my eyes just for that highlighted brightened under eye effect. And I like using my fingers to apply this concealer because I find that it works really well with the warmth of my fingers, but I do find that it sets very quickly, so you have to work quite fast. And here I'm just applying a little bit of the concealer between my brows up to the center of my forehead, just to kind of balance out the highlight on the face. Then just taking the darker shade, I'm applying that around my nose where I typically get a little bit red, and I also apply some either side of my mouth where I have some broken capillaries, which is always nice, and foundation doesn't really tend to cover that up, so I need a little bit extra coverage. Then to set all that concealer work in place, I'm applying a light dusting of the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. Note that I don't take it under the eyes because I find that it can look quite dry, especially using that concealer as the finish is quite matte. I also like to apply some to the cheeks so that my bronzer, blush and contour goes on a lot more smooth. Then finishing off the eyes, I'm taking the shade Last Dance and running that right the way along the bottom lash line from outer corner to inner corner. Then I'm taking the shade Dusty Rose and using it to diffuse the edges of that Last Dance shade. Then to define the outer corners of my eyes, I'm going to take a little bit of that XL pencil and apply that to the outer third of the bottom lash line. And this is definitely more of a very dark charcoal grey rather than an intense black. So this is great if you want a slightly more softer definition. Then going in with the dark neutral tone brown from the palette, I'm going to use that to smoke out the pencil. Then to define my bottom lashes, I'm going to go in with a coat of the MAC Extended Play Giga Black Lash Mascara. And whilst you might think it's excessive to use 2 different mascaras, I really love the fine tiny wand on this particular mascara. Great for bottom lashes. Then I'm going to go back in with the warm metallic gold and apply that to the inner corners of the eyes for that really nice pop of gold, which will help brighten up the eyes and stop everything from looking too dark. Then I'm going to go in with a product that's new to me. It's the Revlon and Chloe Morello collaboration, the Sculpt and Highlight Kit, and I'm going to use what they call is the contour shade and start to carve out my cheekbone. Word of warning though, this product has a lot of fallout. The powders are very soft, so I had to make sure that I tapped off the excess very well. With that being said, the powders are very pigmented and very easy to blend, so it made it quite easy to work with. If I'm being totally honest though, the contour powder is way too warm for my liking. I tend to prefer a much more cooler powder, as I find that it better mimics that natural shadow. Then going in with a slightly more fluffier brush, I'm using the bronzer shade, and I'm starting to add and build up warmth to my complexion, and essentially just going over where I applied the contour but extending it above the hairline and temple area, and also along the jawline. I also like to sweep a little bronzer across the nose as well, as I think that gives a bit more of a natural sun-kissed look. Then taking a little bit of the contour powder again, I'm using it with a small tapered brush and applying it along either side of my nose for a slightly more slimmer looking nose. Then I like to soften it out with a slightly more bigger fluffy brush, just so the lines don't look too obvious. Then to add a little bit of glow to this look, I am going to go in with the highlight from the Sculpt and Highlight Kit and apply that to the tops of my cheekbones. Whilst the powder looks quite pink in the pan, it's quite deceptive because it applies kind of like a duochrome peachy gold, so it's quite pretty, and the powder's quite fine as well, so there's no big chunks of glitter. And I also like to extend the highlight to above the arch of the brow as well, just for continuity, as I find it looks a bit more natural. And I'm going to take a little bit on a fluffy brush and apply it right beneath the arch of the brow as well, just for that subtle hint of highlight. Then to add a pop of colour to the cheeks to tie in this whole look, I'm using Tarte Amazonian Clay Blush in the shade Exposed, which is a neutral tone dusty rose. And if you're struggling to find where to position your blush, I always find that it helps to smile like a fool, and then the apples of your cheeks should pop out and you'll know where to place your blush. Then I like to go over the surface of the powders with my foundation brush or a beauty blender, just to make sure the powders are seamless. And then moving on to the lips, I'm using Nars' Velvet Lip Pencil in the shade El Agua, which is a cool tone mauve, pretty much a purple, like a pinky purple. And I'm using that to line and slightly fill in my lips. And this is going to help add a little bit more of a plummy undertone to the lipstick I'm going to be using. And the lipstick I'm going to be using is Kat Von D's Studded Kiss in the shade Lovecraft, which is described as a matte mauvey pink nude. And as you can see, it's slightly more warmer than the lip liner, but combining the two will just make the lipstick a little bit more cooler, which I think ties in really nicely with the tones we've got on the cheeks and on the eyes, of course. And then because I wanted more of a glossy finish rather than a matte finish, I'm going to be using Marc Jacobs Enamoured High Shine Lip Lacquer Lip Gloss in the shade Sugar Sugar, which is a really pale kind of baby pink. This has a little bit of pigment to it, so it will make the lips look a little bit more lighter and of course a bit more glossier, and it has a nice kind of minty scent to it as well, and it's a non-sticky formulation, so great for those that hate that gloopy texture. And because I wanted the gold on the eyes to be a little bit more intense, I went in with a damp brush, just using a setting spray, and I applied the gold onto the wet brush before applying it to the eyes, and you can see that the gold is a lot more intense and pigmented. And using the same setting spray, this one's the Loreal Infallible Mist and Fix setting spray, I'm going to set my makeup in place. And this is pretty much the completed look. It's a halo smoky eye, but with contrasting colours. You've got the coolness of the plummy browns, and then you've got the warmth of the metallic gold. I think this is slightly different, and even though it's high impact, high drama, I still think it's very wearable. And like I said, I think this is a great makeup if you've got an event to go to or like a party to celebrate. And yeah, I hope you like this, and if you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye!